Florida State lands their top transfer portal target, James Williams.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst and writer. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. The news today is very simple. Florida State, they just got their guy, James Williams. And I just want to give an overview on him. I talked about him a few times on the show already in the last week, but this is important, and I just want to reiterate it. You must have very athletic and mobile outside linebackers / defensive ends. It's a hybrid system that Tony White and his defensive staff will use in the 3-3-5. It'll morph into 4-3, etc. And when 24/7 Noles interviewed James Williams recently, he talked about, I already know the scheme. I know how I'm going to fit in. I know we could do different things, et cetera, et cetera. You have a plug-and-play player that's 6'6", 250, that is a proven pass rusher. Even in limited snaps last year, he ends up with 5 sacks. Can't teach the measurables. He was only a sophomore. He was a project player that they brought along because it was a new defense for him, and it takes a little while to learn. But James Williams is not an easy player to project because he could play linebacker on one spot and drop, could be his hand in the dirt in a 4-3 on the next play. He could play strong side end on a given play if you wanted him to and try to pass rush. You could do a million different things with him. The opposing team will not know where he's coming from. He's long, he's athletic, and again, he is a proven player within the scheme that Terrance Pot Roast Knighton is going to be coaching up front as a defensive line coach, and Tony White has as a defensive coordinator. Very important. So I just want to go over a few stats with you on him. And as a matter of fact, I'll share my screen for those of you that are on YouTube, and as well, I'll go over all the stats straight up as they are for listening out here. But this is a guy that, again, didn't play all the snaps, okay? He was not a quote-unquote starter because of all the things they had going on, but total snaps for the year was 188, and he still had 5 sacks. As far as total pressures and hurries and all that kind of stuff, here are the totals. We've got 28 different pressures, meaning sacks, hits, or hurries that got close to the quarterback. At 12 hurries, 11 hits, and 5 sacks. In 188 snaps, that is an extraordinarily high number. That's over 10% of the snaps that he was in the game. James Williams was impacting the quarterback in some capacity. That's a good sign. Secondarily, you're talking about a guy that did this even though he was occasionally in coverage. He only did it 5 times, but he's done it. They know that he's just so good. Unlike some of the other linebackers and outside edge guys, they don't need to mess around with it. They just send him downhill. That's a good sign for me. Run defensive grade, 66.8. Pass defensive grade, 74.5. That's a good sign for a guy that didn't cover a whole lot. Overall defensive grade, 73.5. And again, he's got 2 years to play. Matter of fact, he might even have 3. Let me check here. He may not have played enough snaps in 23 to get over the hump. And he only played in 4 games, so technically he's a redshirt freshman. He's got 3 years, so I was wrong. This is a kid that's got 3 years of eligibility. That is a great sign for Florida State. If you don't have that outside linebacker spot secured, the pass rusher, and for you old school people out there like me, the Lawrence Taylor position, that's what I call it. He's the first guy that really kind of revolutionized football doing it that way as a stand-up guy. I think it's important that Florida State already has it, and he can teach other guys on campus of what he can do. Additionally, this is the prototype of what you're going to recruit to. 6'6", 250 may not be what the kid is out of high school, but it's more about the length, the arm length, the height, and the ability to impact passes at the line. The 3-3-5 will obviously try to get to the quarterback, but getting your hands up and getting deflections is something that I think is important, and it's also something that he can definitely do. They just have to make sure that he continuously keeps learning his craft and keeps going forward, because there's no reason for him to have to just be a pass rusher. He's got to learn all the nuances, because with the screen game the way it is in college football, you're going to see a lot of different things. Here are a couple of the interesting stats for him as I went through it this year. Like the game against Indiana, he didn't tackle well. The game against USC, he didn't tackle well. Both those teams have good athletes in space. He needs to improve on it. But that's a lifelong learning skill. Every team you play is different, so you're learning again. That's okay. But against Iowa, a team that's got one of the best running backs in the country, he had a 73 grade for tackling. Against a team like Purdue, which you should be dominant, he had 75.2. Rutgers, not that great a team, 78.3. He did well when he should do well. And additionally, his pass rush grades, they're pretty good. But at the same time, I think they can be even more consistent. USC was 70.9. Their O-line's okay. Wisconsin, pretty good offensive line, 61.5. It probably could be higher. Iowa, 61.9. They got a good O-line, a lot of seniors. Could be higher. I think he's just scratching the surface of what he can do. Also, by getting him now, final point here on Mr. Williams, you have a guy in your fold that's key, and now you can build around him. You're not spending time on it. You know what your resources are going to be, etc. Florida State gets their guy now. Very, very important. Finally, if you just want to look at this overall, I didn't think they'd be getting this many guys early anyway, but the ones that they're getting so far are good, and it may not be a better player that they get in the portal more important. You could argue if they get Deuce Robinson maybe, but James Williams, because of how the defense is so unique, might be the top guy overall. This has been a Locked On Seminoles update on the transfer portal. James Williams is coming to the Noles. It's a big pickup. Florida State just got better today.